I was going to ask you, like Bryan and I were talking earlier in the hour, the championship pedigree was kind of on display there, and it didn't have to be, a pretty game, but to me, it was more like a grinder's game. Like the Raptors have that ability just to dig in, and it's not all about threes and fanciness. It's about finding the way to get it done. Did you witness that today?
Yeah, old-fashioned defense noodles too. You know, I think even after three quarters, they're down. They were down after every quarter, and after three quarters, then they sort of, it's almost like a wake-up call. I know OG Anunoby, took a pretty good cheap shot on one of the screens, and then and OG kind of had an off day in many ways. I mean, he wasn't shooting the rock very well, and he kind of woke up, and his level of intensity and anger suddenly escalated, and then he goes down the floor and he dunks one, and then he comes back and goes to the line again. And I think it permeates. It starts, I do believe, with Kyle and his kind of attitude, because he never panics. And I think it goes through the rest of the lineup, and you see it with Norm, and you see it with and Fred VanVleet. Freddie had 0 points after one quarter, but what does he end up with? 24 again. And they always say, and I guess we're seeing it now, and living in Toronto, we really haven't seen anything of the ilk of championships through the years, except for the Blue Jays back in '92, '93. But you understand what happens when you start winning and you start playing with swagger and a good chip on your shoulder, that you don't panic, and experience and grit and determination and good head coaching. The Nick Nurse it's undeniable. He's the coach of the year in so many ways.
Yeah, he's been outstanding for them. The Raptors getting past Brooklyn 104-99 in Game 2. They're up 2-0 in that series. Game 3 going Friday. We're chatting with Rod Black. You mentioned Marc Gasol, and he didn't have it tonight or this afternoon. He only played 17 minutes, only put up 2 shots, 0 points.
But that's okay.
That's fine, but I don't think this is a matchup for him anyway. He's had a tough year to begin with because of the injuries. I think he came in tired because of the championship run and then the World Cup with Spain last summer. He is finding his way, but I said this earlier, like you keep him for the Embiid matchup if it materializes. You keep him for a Lopez brother matchup if it gets to that point. This doesn't appear to be his series. I think he'll continue to start, but I don't see him factoring in much, and I don't think he has to, considering the depth that they have.
Or Al Horford or somebody like that, because I think Boston's going to miss Gordon Hayward. That's a big blow for them right now. So it kind of looks like maybe Boston. We'll see tonight. You never know. Joel Embiid seems to show up at different times if Philadelphia shows up or not. But I agree with you. And I'm sure you guys are watching it. The Brooklyn Nets came out like it was the 1996 Canadian track and field relay team. I mean, they were running, and built a big lead. It was almost like the other night in reverse, but you just knew they don't have that pedigree. They don't have the ring, and they don't have the talent. They're not deep enough. I mean, we always relate to Charles so often, but he's got one of the greatest lines ever. He said, "Sometimes they just not good enough," and they're just unfortunately that's the way it is. And basketball, more than any other sport, too, Noodles. I think you can win on grit and heart, and maybe win a game, or you could even win a series in maybe hockey. Sometimes it's suddenly just there's this belief system. Basketball is one of those rarities that you rarely see an eighth seed. And I know there's no home court advantage or anything down there, but you rarely see an eighth seed or even a lower seed, just live on grit and heart if they don't have the talent. Talent wins in the NBA. I mean, maybe the closest we saw was last year. The Toronto Raptors never had, there were no lottery picks on that team, but they were also very deep with, if they didn't have an A-plus talent, they had a lot of Bs, and that can win you. And I just don't think even the Brooklyn Nets don't even have a lot of B-plus talent. They have some pretty good players like Karis LeVert. Garrett Temple had a good game today, but that's just not the way. But having said that, I think Sam Mitchell made a great point on our broadcast, is that this is good for the Raptors to have a game where, they get a little resistance, because let's face it, they were 7-1 in the bubble. They had that one really terrible game. But for the most part, they haven't been pushed. And so you're going to need to be pushed to get into that next series if it's Boston or Philly. And, I think today was a good enough wake-up call. I don't see Brooklyn doing, staying as close as they might give the Raptors a little bit of a scare in the next couple of games. But I think the brooms were out, boys, before this series began.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Brooklyn understands. They're just happy to be here. They're happy to perform the way they did during the regular season. Now they're into the playoffs, and they understand where they're going and the fact that their bags are packed and it's time to leave. And when you compound that with the mentality of the team that they're going up against, the Raptors are here and they're chasing a championship. Like, they're not happy with just winning a round or two. So those two mentalities could not be further apart. And I think it's likely going to lead to this ending in 4. Maybe it goes 5.